Oh, yeah, he probably has the sign up sheet, he's just busy doing other things right now.
Well, first of all, the sidewalk, you know, which is
They did that in my bar.
Yeah,
They can think that that's possible.
yeah, that's true.
Monstrous bump overs.
Yeah, I'll tell him, it's in the box.
Going by the old clock.
Keep looking at the clock and stuff.
No, it is.
I haven't said that.
We'll have it reset. Maybe the batteries are running low.
Good, Bill Carson.
Yes, sir.
Called order. Ridley City Council regular meeting. December 15th. 2025 at 6 P M. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Farr,
Here.
Councilmember Roberts.
There.
Councilmember Calderon is absent.
Salute, pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Proclamation to be read, no introduction of new promoted employees. We will go to community patient forum. Members of the public may address city council on matters not listed on the agenda. City council may not discuss or nor take action on any community participation item brought forward by a member of the community. Comments are requested to be limited to 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a speaker card from Jose Santana.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jose Santana. I'm here to bring to your attention ongoing concerns affecting residents along Fairview Drive and the surrounding streets near Greeley High School. I have been working closely with Greeley High School Principal Ricky and School Resource Officer Carson regarding these matters, and they have granted permission for their names to be referenced in this correspondence. These issues primarily involve students littering, unsafe driving, behaviors, and significant parking congestion during school hours. Residents have observed an increase in litter left on sidewalks, lawns, and streets before and after school. This not only detracts from the appearance of our neighborhood, but also places an unfair burden on residents to clean up after others. We respectfully ask that the city and the school collaborate on measures to resolve the problem. Additionally, unsafe driving practices by some students, drivers, and drop-off traffic have become a serious safety concern. Speeding, distracted driving, illegal U-turns, and failure to yield to pedestrians have all been observed, creating hazardous conditions for residents, children, and other motorists. Parking congestion is another ongoing challenge. Students frequently park on Fairview Drive and adjacent streets in ways that block driveways, limit visibility, and restrict access for emergency vehicles. We value Greeley High School as an important part of our community and believe these concerns can be addressed through a cooperation between the city and school district and residents. We respectfully request that the city council review these matters and consider appropriate solutions to improve safety, cleanliness, and quality of life in our neighborhood. Thank you for your time and attention. I would appreciate any updates on action being considered, and I'm happy to provide additional information if needed. Sincerely, Jose Santana and the Fairview community. And I mentioned Fairview community. I took my time to go walk around the whole neighborhood, and I provided a copy to Attorney Landon. Everybody that signed this paper, and they're all, on board on trying to make a change, possibly make it a resident parking only. As well, I got a copy of a support letter from Principal Ricky. Right in there, so. I hope we can work on something.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Likewise, take care.
I did not drop off a card, right, so, yeah. Sorry, it's been a while. I'm Dave Garner, I live at 375 Hazel Street, and I just had a couple of quick comments. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about it, but a lot of folks I've talked to would like to, if possible, see this PG&E shut off moved to April or something like that, when it's not gonna be 55 degrees outside. Even like my house has no insulation in it. And it's one of the older homes. And when it gets cold outside and I don't run the furnace, the temperature inside will drop pretty fast. And I think a lot of the folks in town may be in that same situation. And especially for me, as you can tell, I'm well insulated. But I'm sure there are lots of people in town, especially elderly, that may not be as well insulated physically or in their homes. And the temperature can drop pretty fast, especially. It looks like it's supposed to be partially sunny on the 18th, but if it's not, it starts getting cold. So a lot of people are going to be really cold. So with that comment. Secondly, with the super wide sidewalk they have out there, I'm not sure why they have sidewalk has to be quite so wide that they cut down all the trees, but wanted to see, if you know if they're going to repave the street after they're done, because the outside lane now is really rough from where all their work, they're digging up pipes and whatnot, and it seems kind of silly to put in a new sidewalk and then leave the road like a demilitarized zone. But other than that, those are my two comments. So don't know if you can do anything about it, but like I said, try to get PG&E to maybe do this at a better time. Anyway, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. More comments from the public? None. We will move to consent agenda.
It's an agenda. No second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Park,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
We move to item number 4. Items for consideration, American Disability Act, self-evaluation and transition plan, sorry.
I know Lisa's name on this is on this, but I'll go ahead. Lead. So last couple of years we've talked about this a couple of times. We had it in our budget. I believe it was last year. We had gone out to RFP to do a audit of the entire city, the ADA. This is a requirement by the federal government in order to be eligible for funding through Caltrans and through for transportation funding. I believe it's also a requirement of the ADA Act and your insurance. So a couple of years ago, we went out to RFP. Bids came back a little high, or double what we had budgeted. So we basically rejected all the RFPs because we didn't have money. And so we went back out to RFP. We've got 2 bidders. I believe they're the same 2 bidders we had previously. We were better prepared this time to be able to manage that. Well, the original amount we put on there, but then I guess during budget sessions, it had been backed out. So before you have a supplemental appropriations resolution along with the contract and the staff report that outlines the difference between the point difference between the 2 consultants. They're very evenly matched as far as qualifications go. We did have price as part of our selection process. So, there was some weight added to all of that. We had 3 of your staff that did the review of the RFPs, and this is the accumulation of the points that were generated out of it. The plan is really, as mentioned, they're going to do a whole audit of the entire city and put together a transition plan. What that means is it gives us the framework for being able to bring our deficient facilities, into ADA compliance. So then we're looking for you guys, for mayor and council to give authorization to the city administrator to execute that contract and also to adopt that resolution.
Comment? Any comment from the public? Seeing none, the motion.
I'll motion that we award the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan to VAC LLC in the amount of $89,960 and B, authorize city administrator to execute any necessary agreements, and C, approve the resolution 2025-R-033, a resolution approving the supplemental appropriation for the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan.
I'll second. Call please.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Mayor Farr,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, we'll move to item number 5. Feather River Sewer Crossing Contract Amendment.
So this is also me. Just today, I realized that it's been a while since I presented this project to you guys. It's been a few years now. So I figured most of the information that you need is in the staff report and the attached documents, but figured we go ahead and go through a little reminder of the project and where we've been and how we got to where we are today. So as a reminder, we've got a group of consultants that are all working together to try and find a solution to the problem of a pipe that was installed in the river in 1967, ductile iron pipe. All of the city's raw sewage flows through that pipe. It would release sits on the bottom of the river. When the Orville spill was damaged, there was a lot of eyes on the Feather River in the area. The water boards started asking questions about what happens if this fails. And we looked into requesting a planning grant application to look at feasible options for replacing the pipe. So I just realized there's a typo there that I thought I had corrected, but we're now at approximately 7,400 people in the city. As I mentioned, all of the wastewater from the city goes through it. And then 18 miles downstream, Yuba City gets their drinking water out of the Feather River. So this is why it's such a big concern, not only for the beneficial uses of the river, but also drinking water that it's a source of drinking water. So through the project, through the planning grant, so originally we got $500,000 for the planning grant, and we started looking at the existing condition of the pipe and of the whole situation, really, the river, all of those the things that you need to consider to be able to do work in the river. We looked at the some of the feasible options, environmental protection, jurisdictions, issues that we were going to run into, and the idea was to come up with a long-term solution. So fast forward, we started doing the assessment, brought to light the condition of the pipe, still functioning. As far as we know, there's no leaks. It is periodically inspected by a diver. That's the extent of the inspections. So diver goes down, it starts leaking the day after they dive. We have no idea. I think the permit is once every 5 years. That said, you would never know if it was in the river. There's just so much flow compared to what we put through it. We still have to make sure that we're not polluting the river. So as we went through, we got to, we went through some feasible options. With that included some geotech. The original idea was that we were going to go to a 30% design document once we had this feasible option. We would do some environmental docs that got us ready to do the work. CEQA kind of get us all lined up and identify all the permits that we're going to be able be required. And then we would go for a construction funding application. And the water board has been fully supportive of this project. So, they were ready to fully fund the construction of that, the project. Go on to the next one. So the existing condition, we have this pipe that it was floated across the river. It's got this big arch out there. If it were easy and permittable, we'd probably do something similar. But, again, you'd have the same problem in another 50 years or so. You can move on to the next one there. So some of our initial thoughts were to do some kind of directional drilling, technology that, PG&E is putting in gas lines with. We've used it in a lot of other situations going under rivers. As we started digging a little bit more, we got into the geology, and we have a subconsultant that specializes in trenchless. It's called Bennett Trenchless, no relation to our company. And they specialize in this kind of construction. And we looked at the geology, and there's no way to hold the hole open with the size of the rock that we're seeing in the geology. So their idea was, well, we could probably do some micro tunneling. This is what it sounds like. You're putting a machine down there that's boring a tunnel under the river, and then they jack a casing in there, and then after that's all done, we run a pipe through it. So after all of our reviews, that's kind of where we landed. Go to the next slide. I think and actually before I go too far into this, we did look at a bridge crossing, like what would it take to pipe it up, take it across the East Gridley Bridge. We roughly looked at building its own bridge, but it's a long span to get across that river. So, so that's a big endeavor. And then it's 2 miles of extra pipe if we were to go up to the Gridley Bridge and around with the alignment that we have. So again, from our side of things, the most feasible option at the time was let's go under the river. So what you're looking at right now is our initial cross section of the geology of the river. Feather River's been here for millennia, moving back and forth, all kinds of different deposits. And so we had this trench zone that we were shooting for, and we had borings on each side of the river. You can kind of see one going down the side there. So, and we had another one on the other side. So we kind of had an idea what was out there. The trench zone was what we were shooting for. The sub-consultant, the experts were saying, hey, we've got like 10 feet here. We can make this happen if it's consistent across the river. The problem with that is the machine that they put down there is somewhere like $6 million. So nobody wants to risk putting a $6 million machine underneath the river unless they know exactly what's down there. So fast forward, we submit an amendment to the water board. We need more geotechnical investigation actually in the river. So that's the approach we took. The water board did give us an amendment. I think it was in the $700,000 range. So now we're looking at $1.2 million for this planning effort that we're in the middle of. But in order to do borings in the river, you have to go through all of the permits to do. They consider it a construction activity in water. So we spent 2 years going through Army Corps of Engineers, Central Valley Flood Protection Agency, Fish and Wildlife. Oh, and by the way, it's a river, so there's the State Lands Commission. Every one of them has permit requirements, and they want to see plans, they want to see reports and biological surveys, archaeological consultations, aquatic surveys. And then so we had these windows of time, all this permit, I think that was 2024. We had finally got signed off on all of our permits. So the plan was to do it in summer 2024. We have from July 1st to August or October 1st to get the work done. And just about the time we're about to pull the trigger, the act of God happened, and the driller that owns the drill rig passed away from a heart attack. So we were delayed a year, literally from an act of God. And that brought us to summer of 2025. and we finally got borings in the river. This was a quick cross section. This is what we anticipated this looking like with doing the micro tunneling. So we would have, in that 10-foot section, 10 or 15-foot section, we would have put about a 4 or 6 foot diameter casing in there. That's really for the experts. Once we got the geotech data to decide how big of a machine to put down there. Anytime you get any kind of cobble, they have to have a machine that's big enough to process that. So that's why even though we only have an 18-inch pipe, they have to put a casing in there that's big enough to actually support the tunnel and, big enough equipment to handle the size rock that would be coming out of it. You can go on to the next one. So I was out there taking some pictures while they were out doing the borings. I know it looks like a little tiny barge, but it's really specific for what they're doing. It was, the current didn't stop. The fishermen were quite frustrated. I think the releases from Orville were a little higher than we were hoping for because, if the river wasn't moving so fast, it would have been a little easier. But they were able to anchor in, and over the course of the week, they got 3 borings done. It was, you don't get to see this every day in my world even, right? A drilling machine on a river. So it's kind of neat that they were able to get it done. So the results here are not what we were hoping for. So there's that trench zone that we highlighted in the previous one. And there's a little dotted line there. I know it's hard to see on this. And I put a little arrow where the trench zone material pinch out. And so what we were hoping for 10 feet goes down to only a couple of feet there, and it's not big enough to get the machine through. And all of that above it is gravels and cobbles. So if they get into that zone, the river basically dumps down into the hole. So the micro tunneling turns out to not be not feasible at this depth. In order to make it feasible, we would have to go down enough into that. There's a zone 8 and 9. I should have added a block there, or 7 and 8, excuse me. And so it's hard, silty sand. So we would have to go down that far. It's another 35 feet deeper than we were thinking. So now we're looking at probably close to 100 to 105 feet below the surface in order to get a machine down there. That adds a huge amount of cost for the shafts that they have to build, the time that it takes in order to do it, just getting equipment and men down on a crane into the bottom of this 100-foot deep shaft. And, you're talking about something about the size of this room, right? That they're trying to get people 100 feet below river into. The dewatering, all of that, has to come into consideration. So where we're at right now is we are working with the experts. In January, we're going to be reaching out to some contractors, try to get some better numbers of what this would cost, the feasibility, the likelihood of it. What it likely is doing is going to push us back towards one of our other options, probably the pipeline up on East Gridley Road. But in order to do that, we're basically back at this feasibility level. We need to lay it out. We need to see what the costs are, what the implications are to the city, because all of our lift stations may have to be upgraded in order to pump it an extra 2 miles of pipes. It's not just, hey, this is an easy, hey, we'll just do a different, to look at all the components that are going to be impacted by it. So where we're at today is we were supposed to be wrapping up with our work for the grant. They are willing to extend our schedule by as many years as we need to get it done. Hopefully it's not that much, but in the grant world, you put more time on it than you think you need because there's always delays, and it'll probably take 6 months before they authorize the amendment. So what we're doing is we're rescoping the grant. When they gave us the amendment, they wanted us to go to 90% construction docs. We're going back to 30 to do this reevaluation. So there's about $480,000 left in the grant to get us to the point where we're submitting for a construction application. So that's where we're at right now is redoing the amendment and then allowing us to kind of find the next best solution since this one has proven us.
So the option that you're looking at now is of going across the bridge? Is that
Potentially,
the bridge that's there now,
yes.
potentially?
Yeah, and I called the county. So when we originally talked to them, that's like four years ago now, probably. They said, "Oh, that bridge has got load issues and it's on the list to be replaced." Well, when I talked to him last month, I think it was the same guy. He thought it was the same guy I talked to. He was like, "Oh, no, it doesn't have load issues. It has scour issues. And yeah, we still may need to replace it, but they just got funding to do their scour analysis right now." And from what I know of scour, the chances of them needing to replace it are much slimmer than actually, like they're going to go fix the scour in the river rather than, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars to rebuild a bridge. So, again, we don't know what the outcome of that's going to be, but right now the plan is let's investigate that because that's our next best option. I have a sense that the state is probably going to have us look into regionalization again as well as part of this amendment to, maybe we connect with Biggs or something. I still don't know that that's a feasible option. I mean, Biggs is a smaller plant than ours. And, there's a lot of infrastructure there. But, if this project is going to cost $20 million and it's, 30 or 40 million, I don't know that you can even do it for that to build a new sewer plant. They may rather fund that than, just doing an extended pipeline or something. But those are
saying once you get across the bridge, it's 2 more miles down to the.
No, it's a total of 2 miles because we have to come up the river. So we would come up the levee to the housing authority, across the bridge, and then kind of back down to the treatment plant, to the headworks of the treatment plant. So that's a total of an extra 2 miles. And so, again, there's a lot of jurisdictional issues being that close to the levee, having a parallel pipe to it. We do already have an easement there because we have a pipe that comes from the housing authority that comes down. So a lot of things to consider as we, keep that operational, build a pipe next to it, transfer it over. And again, all the pump stations that feed our force main, those pumps need to, they can be pumping against more head and all of those engineering things that we need to
Sounds like you don't really have a good option yet.
Well, I mean,
When you're talking about. Oh.
I can't tell why they put the treatment plant across the river, in the 60s either, right? Like, we don't know. So we're going to take our best stab at finding a solution that's going to work. And then we're going to submit an application and we're going to, put contingencies like heck on it to make sure that there's enough money to cover it. And,
Building a separate bridge for your pipe, is that an option?
Yeah, we will look at that again. Again, we didn't take a hard look at it because it seemed like a better option to go under the river. At the look, so if we build a bridge, we have to start outside of the levee. And then we have to have somewhere to tie it in on the other side. So, the river might only be 500 feet, but after you've taken another 200 feet past or 300 feet past the levee, plus the elevation to get it there. And, so if you're talking 1,000 feet, 1,500 foot span, I mean, this is a big bridge. This isn't like, you just weld a bunch of pipes together and put it over it. We're talking.
What would happen if that pipe starts leaking?
Well, it's going to be raining. I mean,
The city's not made too happy.
no, the more we can keep it underground, the better. It's more protected. Hanging it off the East Gridley Bridge, it would have a casing on it, and
The city wouldn't be too happy, they'd shut down our toilets. If that thing starts leaking.
well, and with the alignment, if we keep it the way it's going because we're still crossing the river. We still have the emergency ponds out there. So right now it's set up. So if there's a leak, we've got about 14 days of flow that we can handle in our emergency ponds on the west side of the river. So the idea is to leave that infrastructure in place and functioning so that as we build it up and over, or if there's any leak in the future, you have a way to shut down, do an emergency repair, get it back. So there's a little bit of redundancy there. So that's the gist of it. I don't think, do I have any more slides up there? Oh, I kind of talked through it. That's my idea of what a bridge might look like. the East Gridley Bridge.
That's cute.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure everybody in Butte County would love to see their own little Golden Gate that this is, takes our wastewater across it. So
So I have a question. So clearly, and I'm pretty sure it's on there as your number 2 bullet point. So the relocation of the force main in its current location, that's not permitted. So that means in its current state. Can you remind us why? Is that?
well, they just don't let you put raw sewage pipes in rivers anymore.
Okay.
So I don't.
You can't even just replace it as.
I don't even know who we would talk to say, this is a good idea. We're gonna put, this sewer pipe in a river. It's again, that list that Army Corps, State Lands Commission, Fish and Wildlife, that they just all would, we would have people holding this up in lawsuits. The California Anglers Association, I think is what they're called. They're notorious for litigating against anything that jeopardizes waterways and fish. And so there's huge red flags when it comes to that. One of the other ones we did look at, and we may try to look at it again, is putting a liner inside the current pipe. But the way that it sits on there, these ball joints, it's a ball joint type of pipe. So it has some pretty steep angles. A lot of times they can't pull the liner through those and you get kinks. And so it's not ideal. But if we can't figure something out, then we're going to try to figure out some way to at least make that one more bulletproof, get us another 50 years. But nothing's jumping out.
Encased the outside of it?
I've never seen that, because usually they blow it up inside of it and then it's using the pipe as kind of the shell, and then it hardens. Basically it's like almost like a fiberglass, but it's a cure in place liner. So they pull it in soft and wet, and then they pump it full of hot water that then activates it, and then it hardens, and it's.
It would freeze the outside of the pipe. Cover the outside of the pipe.
Yeah, well, it covers the inside diameter, so it makes your pipe slightly smaller, but then it's super smooth, and so you don't actually lose any flow from it because the water can flow faster through it with less friction losses on
I'm
it.
talking about putting something around the outside.
I don't even know how you do that under the water like that. And again, permitting, it's not like we're going to be able
Big
to.
hose.
So we will look into some of the newer technologies that may have come about in the last 4 years since we first looked at these options. But my gut's telling me it's heading up to the bridge.
But that's less riskier than where the pipe is now, is to build a pipe parallel to a bridge that is also above water. And if there is a potential for there to be damage or.
Yeah, so the way we would do that is, we're going to be using welded HDPE. And once you weld 2 sticks of HDPE, it's like welding metal, right? It's actually stronger at the weld than it is in the pipe. So we would be able to do most of this entire thing without any joints. Maybe some coming up out of the bridge. We'll take into seismic considerations and make some joints that have some movement in them, but they're still watertight. And then it would be a continuous pipe all the way across the bridge. So there's not like a joint like there is now with these ball joints, where that's typically where you would get a leak. And then that pipe would be inside a casing. So it's not like somebody, is going to hit it with a excavator or something. They would hit the casing first and not the pipe. So we take all these precautions, especially going over the waterways. And just because we're going over it doesn't mean we're still gonna have all the permitting and the reviews from all the other agencies that are gonna allow us to go over this waterway. So still quite a hurdle. It changes, the permitting that we've done right now. So we're looking at revising our environmental docs, our feasibility reports, all of that stuff's getting updated with this.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Have we contacted Sutterbute's flood control agency for their assistance on maybe not necessarily funding, but could be? I know that they're chomping at the bit because I mentioned something to them 4 or 5 years ago about the sewer treatment pond area, turning it into a park or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're kind of waiting to see what we want to do.
Yeah, and I haven't talked to him. So we just got the geotech report last week. So this presentation to you guys was to get the authorization to move forward with the amendment with the water board, because that's like critical path. But we'll absolutely reach out to them to see if there's any partnership there. We've been in conversations in the past with them about it.
Yeah, so, I discussed it, someone else last meeting, that maybe since they are. I mean, the pipe is in the river. There's flood control agency, maybe, I know that when I say connections, I know that they work with. The engineers, they have to look at all this stuff, Army Corps and stuff, they have to go through a lot of hoops, and all the things that you just said, they deal with all the time.
Yeah.
Including DWR. So I think Michael Bissett might be somebody you could reach out to, and if you'd like.
I have his number in my phone. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah.
And I work with Chris Fritz.
Okay.
And so like we've had several discussions about what we can do over there. You know, they were just two separate projects, right? They deal with the flooding. They're worried about the flooding of the wastewater treatment plant. We're worried about the pipe. So again, you know, if there's things to be done over there, I mean, I've gone and walked over there. There's plenty of room out there to make some kind of riverfront park, right? It's just finding the funding, and you know, even if it's separate from this, I mean,
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just waiting for Gridley to get back with them on what we want to do down there. But I'm just saying, if you can reach out to them, maybe they can give you some pointers or maybe help out, because they're dealing with the same
yeah.
issues, you know, when they're messing with the levies and stuff, so.
Yeah, I definitely reached out to them when we started our cultural consultation too, because
Yeah.
you know, they had big issues with
Oh.
that. And as soon as you talk, you know, we had people on site when we were doing these borings looking, you know, it's a 6-inch hole. The chances of you hitting something are pretty slim, but the state wanted archaeologists on site just in case something came out of the hole,
Yeah.
right? And so we're going through those same steps to try to protect ourselves from what, you know, Spoofka had to go through with their mitigations. And
It's
so,
pretty good at it, so it's pretty
Yeah.
good getting
Yeah.
all that stuff done.
yeah, they really are in their lane though when it comes to flood protection, as opposed to, you know, just the navigation of all this other stuff. But they're, I was trying to remember, no, it was our sub-consultant that reminded us of the State Lands Commission, which was a whole nother entity when we first started that we didn't even consider. But you know, the state owns any of the land underneath the waterways, so they have their own engineers that want to make sure we're doing stuff right. So we'll continue down that path. I will say the good news about as far as we've gotten right now, we've made relationships with all of those agencies and gone through this process. And, you know, it's taken a couple of years to get there. You know, we've got some more work in front of us, and luckily there's some budget left in there that the state's allowing us to kind of do a little shell game with and make sure that, you know, we're finding the right solution. So, so really, there's the items in front of you today are authorization to move forward with the amendment with the state, and then the task order amendment. It's just a budget shift for us. There's no extra dollars. It's just moving the dollars where we need to have them out of those design phases and back into the environmental and the feasibility analysis. So. No financial impact to the city at this point. It's still all grant funded, and just doing the paperwork now to keep the project going and keep the money flowing.
Question/concern, Mayor, if I may. So in looking over the staff report and based on your presentation tonight, it looks as though we have to obviously look at more thorough alternatives and what those options are. But it looks like we only have about $520,000 remaining out of a $1 million grant fund. Should we be concerned that, you may not come back with alternatives. Do you feel that, and I say this respectfully, should we be able to trust that Bennett Engineering can come back to us with alternatives? Because what if there is a risk that you would not be able to find alternatives, and then we're going to utilize the rest of this $1 million grant fund, and then we would not be able to go outside of bid to maybe folks that are more experts in the field or who could go a bit above and beyond where you're at right now. If that makes sense, right? And again, because I see that you've already looked at 6 different alternatives, I just don't want us to run out on our luck if that's.
Yeah, I mean,
Not too quick on this one.
well, I'm trying to, like, at this point, we're doing the feasibility analysis. You're looking at pipelines, you're looking at materials, you're looking at all these things that are gonna cost money, right? Our job is to put, when we talk about feasibility, any of this stuff can be constructed with the right amount of money, right? We have to find something that's fiscally feasible. We can still do the microtunnel. It's that instead of costing $12 million, it's going to cost $20 million. So it still may be the most feasible option, which is why we brought in experts that do microtunneling, right? So our team is full of experts in these areas, the geotech that can, get a barge on the river. And, that's their expertise, is getting that information and then feeding it to the engineers. So we do pipelines all the time. Right. So doing a pipeline, attaching it to a bridge. I've got 3 other projects that we've done that with. So, they're all feasible. And, does one engineer have a little more experience in one of these options than another? I can guarantee that there are, experts in every one of these. Our goal right now is to find you the most fiscally feasible option for the city of Gridley. I can tell you, I know this city inside and out better than any of these other engineers do. We could say, hey, yeah, we'll just easily do a pipeline. But what about the 3 lift stations that, all have to get it there? Those are things that a new engineer might get there, or they miss it. And, you get down the road into tens of millions of dollars of construction. And you're like, oh, what about the lift stations that need to be upgraded? So I really do feel like, my job as your city engineer is to make sure that we're thinking of all these aspects. And, I want what's best for Gridley as well. So, sure, there's other people out there that are experts in every one of these, but I'd be surprised if you could find an expert in all of them, right? So, because they're just so different. But
What might make it easier is to have a checklist of things that we cannot do. And then, and look at, it looks like we're down to 2.
yeah, well, and I can, we'll look at this bridge again, right? Like maybe we keep it in
Well,
place
I
and.
mean, the bridge, existing bridge and the micro tunneling.
Yeah, or potentially the new bridge too, right? Like we could look at that again. And like I said, it'll come down to what, I think a big player in this is the state. What's the state willing to fund? Paradise had a great plan to take all their sewage to Chico. And then the price tag, and I think they got like $280 million, right? It's a huge project.
Yeah.
And then they got the bid and it was $400 million. They said, well, we're not funding that. So now they're back to the drawing board and they're looking at building their own treatment plant up there that can be. So I think that's a big piece to this. And that's something that we're trying to take into consideration now, which is why the state wants us to take that money. That money we had there was to do a final design, to get us a 90% design and be ready so that when they were ready to pull the trigger on funding, we could go out to bid very quickly. So they're willing to take that money back that we were going to do the design with and put it back into these alternative analysis. So that's what we're doing now, so that we can then. So what we'll do is, once we have this alternative, we'll go back to the state, submit a construction application for probably $15 million. And we'll take it from 30% design to 100% design, go out to bid, CM, like all of that, and more permitting. And, it's going to be a long road before we're there.
But
Yeah.
we need to figure out what we're gonna do. We need to be given like 3 options.
Yeah, and that's the point where we're
Yeah,
at.
so we're looking at 3 options and then council needs to decide what we need to do as far as which one we're gonna do, and then work towards that, taking funding. Because we are definitely need state funding to do this. So, but the sooner.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the sooner the better, but sooner we can narrow it down and, it'd be great to get it done. At least we're doing something about it. So, I don't want to be here 3 years later looking at the same slides.
And you probably need the analysis done to support the grant funding that you're going after as well. So you're gonna have to show that you've you've checked all the boxes and looking at the analysis.
Yeah, that's where we're at, right? That's what this whole process that we've been in and that we're doing. So that geotech in the river was checking the box. We said, okay, it makes sense. We know it's gonna be expensive. But do we have enough information that a contractor will bid on and be like, yeah, I can go build that? And that's when we went and started drilling, the plan was we need to drill in the river. And, the state, they're the ones funding this as well. They're like, yeah, you need to go drill. We need you to drill holes in the river. And we need that information in order to make a good sound judgment. And, with the county doing their scour analysis of the bridge, I'm taking that into consideration for the timing. I don't have my foot on the gas over there pushing that project, but I would like to. And so I'm gonna.
You got an estimate of when they're gonna do that?
Well, they said that they're hoping to get the authorization for funding. It's in this fiscal budget, but they need the letter and they think it's coming in February. So then.
So the next 2 years.
Yeah, so they'll be working on that scour analysis and they'll have a plan for that bridge.
Okay.
And ideally we can, take it up that way and run it there. So
Is the idea of going north to Biggs, is that completely not feasible?
so when I look at doing something like that, so one, Biggs is not a smaller, it's a much smaller plant than we have.
Yeah.
Right? We do we're scheduled for like 1.5 million average daily dry weather flow, 1 million gallons a day. They do 300,000 gallons a
I
day.
mean, upgrading that one. And maybe it's economically.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to do eminent domain for like 500 acres in order to dispose by land up there. So, I mean, we went through and it was 3 years to do eminent domain to get the 160 acres or the 120 acres that they got up there. And we had our own hurdles to go through with that and different funding agencies that were in and then they were out, USDA. And so it gets messy, especially, we start taking farmland away up here. Like that's a big political thing, right? And then not to mention retooling all of our infrastructure to now flow the opposite direction, right? So, we've got 4 miles of force main going out to the river.
So
Now we're talking 4 miles going the other direction.
what about this side of the river? And this is just an idea. This side of the river and maybe doing a land swap. And putting our system on this side, but that's gonna be expensive to do, putting a whole new sewer treatment plant.
I haven't found that the farmers are too willing to talk about taking
Dirt on that river, we don't want to lose it.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but I mean, and what about the other side? I mean, if there was a.
I mean, it took us months just to get a temporary construction easement to go drill a hole in the guy's land. I mean, it was back and forth and exhibits and, not to mention just saying, hey, we need, a couple hundred acres or something in order to, or maybe it's 60, right? Maybe we need the exact same footprint we have, right? But it's still 60 acres that we got to figure out how we would purchase that. And I'm not saying it's off the table, but it's building a whole new treatment plant and that's just not cheap.
Okay, so that's more expensive, a more expensive option?
I would think that it is.
Okay.
And, it's just, yeah, it's hard to, yeah. And for the flow rates that we have, I mean, we've got a pretty robust system out there for those aeration ponds and then the disposal and, one of the issues that I see that has come up several times since the levee was improved is that the groundwater on the west side now has no way to get back to the river. And so it sits there and you can see it. Farmers lose their trees, because the groundwater table just doesn't have that drainage. Where being on the east side of the river, our perk ponds are percolating back into the river. That's why they're allowed to do that. And when you have those high groundwaters, your only option is evaporation or having a lot of, basically a lot of land that you can, then put the water on.
Okay, so if we move forward with this, basically, this is just to, a no cost amendment task order.
Yeah. Yeah, no cost. This is just authorization for the amendments, one with the state. So Elisa will have to sign a letter that says we're requesting an extension of time. We were supposed to be with complete work, I think it was by like April of 2026. So we put on there like April of 2029. So give us a few years to, again, work this out, make sure the counties got their bridge assessment and those kind of things. And again, we want to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room.
Mayor, I don't mean to make this longer of a conversation, but I have a couple questions. I know.
Go ahead.
Have you looked at what other cities have done if they have had a similar situation as ours? I'm not sure if you've shared any of that. Would that be part of this next feasibility?
I have not
Project
found
you asked
another
us
sewer
to.
pipe in a river like this.
Okay.
I do know that the technology that they used when they installed this was marine pipe, like these tankers would drop pipe along the ocean bed. So they were using that same concept for this. But no, I haven't found an exact situation like this. There's definitely our consultant, the sub-consultant, Bennett Trenchless, they've dealt with multiple pipes under rivers. So they were the expert on getting a pipe under a river. And they're the ones that told us that the geology just doesn't support that type of situation unless we want to go 100 feet deep. And that has its own challenges with just, piping down vertical shafts. And, I mean, God forbid there's a leak, in 20 years and you're trying to figure out how to get down 100 feet, below grade. So it comes with its own risks and also with its own challenges. So, but yeah, we did, that was one of our first steps was, hey, has anybody else done this? Right. But every situation is so unique, especially when you're dealing with geology like that. And as we've seen, like with our sports complex, the geology really is not uniform. There's no consistency. And, this is old alluvial deposits from the Feather River and from Butte Creek and, years of erosion out of the mountains. And we're just at the toe of that. So.
Thank you. And then really quick, have you looked at reducing the size of the pipe at all? Have you talked about that with us before or reducing the flow to help save any costs?
Well, we can't really reduce the flow. The flow is what the flow is, and we actually designed for future growth of the city. So as the city's growing, we're planning for more flow coming in. So we're gonna size it so that the city can grow. We will be looking at, and we have, ideally, we could put in a smaller pipe. Let's say we go from an 18 down to a 12, but we would put multiple 12s in there so that if you get, so in the wintertime, there's inflow and infiltration into the sewer system. So we might do, let's say we on average do 400,000 or 500,000 gallons a day, but then we get some really bad storms. I mean, what are some of the peaks you've seen? Like 2 million, 1.5 million, 2 million in a day. And so we have to plan for those low flows, and then we also plan for those big peak flows. And so we put in enough piping and a redundancy, like I was talking about. If this is going 100 feet, below the river, I'm going to give you some valves up at the top so that if one fails, you have another one to switch it over to. I mean, we're already that far into it. The pipe is cheap compared to everything, digging the holes and, putting in the casing. So we're going to put in redundancy to make sure that, we're taken care of. If we hang it off the bridge, probably not as much. We probably won't do that redundancy. The
existing bridge, right?
Yeah, the existing bridge, because it's accessible. If there was a problem with that run, it would be pretty straightforward to come in and put a new pipe, pull a new pipe through the casing or, bolt it onto the bridge on the brackets that we have. So, each situation has its own, pros and cons. That's part of what we're doing here. The geology, man.
Just the last question, more of a financial concern, as I mentioned earlier. So you're saying even with this reallocation of the grant dollars, you're gonna go out create an alternative analysis for the second time. And then if that's approved, then you would come back with us or to us with a final design. And that would be covered with this grant dollar, or does the city have to?
No, it won't be a final design. So it'll be a preferred or it'll be a recommended option to move forward with. And we would do, we call it preliminary or 30% design. So you don't get into all the details that you would have in a construction document, you know, every bolt size and bracket and, you know. So it's general layout, some sections. It's enough to get you through some permitting and through some environmental, and then give the state enough to say, okay, they have enough of a design that we're gonna fund it. So then when we make that request for construction dollars, it has a planning, they call it a planning phase in it, even though we've already had planning dollars. They allow you to go for more planning dollars. So let's say there's another $500,000 to complete the design. We would request that. So we would do an estimate for that as well. So we request that in the funding. So the city, and I will say, they don't like to give more money out, but even if this project starts running out of money, we can still go back to the state and ask for another amendment. Ideally, there's plenty of money here to get us there. I'm just saying, like, the state knows that this project is a high profile project. It behooves everybody to make sure that we have a solution.
But can we count on the state having their support financially, as you're saying?
Well, and as Bruce said, we're gonna need funding. There's no way that the city can fund this by themselves. I mean, it's just, yeah. So, I mean, the alternative solution is that we don't do anything and we keep just pumping our sewage through the pipe, and fingers crossed it never fails. And if it does, then, you know, it's a natural disaster that could have been prevented with enough dollars, right? So, but you know, that's what we're trying to avoid and the state is funding us to avoid that. So this is not the last request for dollars. Again, this one's just to extend the timeline so that we can keep dipping into the pot of money that they've given us to do that with, and you know, really have a sound solution. And I think it's there. Again, it's just the reason we ran from the bridge, the existing bridge the first time was they told us it was going to be replaced, and we knew that 2 miles of pipeline is not cheap. I mean, it's going to be expensive as well. And again, those implications on the rest of the system. And, you know, those are fixable problems with enough money and enough planning. And so that's where we're at is, you know, back to that kind of, you know, dusting these options off and see how they pencil out.
Okay.
Well, this is, you know, it's not a want, it's a need. This thing has to get done one way or another, whatever it takes to get it done. Keep moving forward and hope the money don't run out.
Yep.
I doubt if it will, because it'll affect a lot of people down river. Feather River goes from the Sacramento River goes to Sacramento.
Yep.
Nobody wants to see a round rim around the Sacramento River.
There might already be one.
Any more discussion? Any discussion with the public? And I'll look for a motion.
A motion on the authorized city administrator to execute no cost amendment task order 16607-206 with Van Engineering.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts, Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Park.
Yes. Move to council committee report.
Haven't had any meetings. We did have the Winter Wonderland at the beginning of the month. That's was a big success. A lot of people, a lot of entrance into the break.
Great. Last Thursday, I attended the NCPA commission meeting down in Roseville. A couple items, Randy, I remember what Randy's about. Randy Howard is going to retire, but he's going to stay on as a consultant until he's replaced. And they authorized a 12% increase in its monthly pays to be paid by the month when Fire Rider. I think they'll get a 12% increase on its monthly wage. Another item is the last sentence. Rudolph Water Company, I think it is, it's a new water, not a new, it's a water district in the northeast corner of California that wants to become part of NCPA. Portives right now is a very good move. They're doing some more venting on it to make sure it fits. And it looks like it will. So that'll help, if I understand right, help our costs come down because we'll have another contributor.
Did you say anything about a water or a utility?
Utility.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Because they're so small.
They're not big, they're small, but they need NCPA.
Did any of the other member cities have concerns, like Roseville or Santa Clara usually are
Yeah, they do.
concerned?
No, I didn't hear any negative context comments, it's all positive. They're doing the final vending right now. And they're pretty much gonna go through it. Looks like. And that's all I have.
And I attended flood control and mosquito, nothing new to report.
No report for me, thank you.
City administrator. Very good report.
Yes, I wanted to report, city did have a code enforcement / city booth at the Winter Wonderland. I wanna recognize Pamela Roberts for being in that cold weather and being forthcoming and even setting all that up, and she took initiative to be out there, so I really wanna recognize her for taking the lead on that. It was our first year, I think, that we had a booth out there, so. Also the attended an exiting meeting with our auditor, our finance director. I won't steal his thunder, so I'll just attended that. It was pretty well. It went quite well. PG&E, we've been extremely busy with PG&E and meetings. We've started with a 12-hour shut off down to a 4-hour, and we're able to secure the 1 to 5. One of the concerns and something that we need to monitor also is the weather permitting. So hopefully we won't get any rain and we can move forward on that. So I'm sure our staff will report on that as well. Did attend a UFS utility rate study kickoff meeting with staff. Have been also meeting with bargaining, hopefully wrapping up soon. And then we will be having our EOC training tomorrow with assistance with Fowler, helping us along the way and leading our group. Is our first emergency operations centered training with our staff. All of our department heads will be in attendance. We'll be given a scenario, and then we'll be looking at our EOC plan as well, emergency operations plan. The last time we have had that was 2014, so we'll probably be needing to update that as well. Again, he'll probably report on that in a minute. I don't want to steal everyone's thunder. Staff that's going to be coming up. Just been part of all of their projects. And so that's all I have for my report. Also, just to let you know, we do have potential closures for scheduling for the holidays. We will be closed day before Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and the same with New Year's. So we'll be posting that out on the front lobby there for the holiday hours. And then we also have a holiday employee appreciation, and I think you all have invitations in your boxes for December 22nd at the electrical warehouse.
At what time?
11 to 1. Yeah.
Department head report.
Mayor, council, no major updates for the police department, just to continuing what Councilman Roberts and City Administrator said, Winter Parade went well, no issues for the police department, well attended and went smoothly. 16th and the 17th of this month, police department's going to be assisting the fire department escorting Santa around. And during the PG&E outage, the police department probably have double amount during the outage period that in case anything comes up.
If no one else will get up next. All right, good evening, Mayor and Council again. Just a couple of quick updates, like Elisa said, we have the EOC training tomorrow. This is really the groundwork for just getting orientation and some initial training. There will be much more training to come in the future, such as a true tabletop exercise where we really exercise activating the EOC. And again, it's opened my eyes at looking at the emergency operations plan, knowing that needs to be updated. And that could require some change in city policy depending on how the department heads want to move with how we activate an EOC and process that. So we do have that tomorrow. Also tomorrow and the next night's Santa tour. The fire department is working with PD as well, getting out there and doing that. So it'll be a 2-night event. The first night will be the north side of Sycamore. And then the second night will be the south side of Sycamore, going through town. And Chief Connolly, who snuck out, he actually has an app this year that has been in the Greeley, or the link has been published in the Herald, as well as with the Chamber. And anyone that wants to click on that link, they can see where Santa's at as he travels through the city. So pretty cool little deal. So in a report, unless you guys have any questions. Thank you again for earlier.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a little update on the finance side. Elisa and I met with Sheldon, our auditor, last Friday, and he mentioned that we're about 75% complete. So we are hoping and we're aiming for having Sheldon present the financials on the second meeting in January. If that doesn't work, we might have to push it to the first meeting in February, but we're pretty confident to get it in January. He says everything so far has been going good. There's no findings on the home fund. The testing of all our files are complete, and there's no findings on that either, which is great. I believe we'll be able to clear 2 of the repeat findings. He says there might be 3 that we might be able to clear, but for sure 2, which is great as well. All good news there. On the recreation side, yesterday we did have a little event for Parents' Day Out where parents dropped their kids off and they went to Christmas shopping for a couple hours. And there's about 9 kids that showed up, and we did crafts and played with them, have pizza for lunch, things like that. Basketball rosters were released today on Facebook, and the first game is in January 10th. So now on the schedule, trying to find some gyms so we can have some practice, so then the Saturday games aren't too long. So we'll see about that. And then we did have breakfast with Santa over at the Moose Lodge. We had roughly 220 plates served. We had crafts, there was Santa there, coffee, breakfast, hot chocolate, things like that. It was well attended. I think it was a pretty good success, and I do want to give thanks to Jim Roberts, Pam Roberts, Greeley Moose Lodge, for letting us have that event there. The Lions Club for cooking the breakfast. They did great. The eighth grade class had some volunteers there as well, and they held silent auction, which was great. Obviously, give thanks to the Greeley Recreation staff that that showed up to help and set up and clean before and after the event. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, but then we did have a Santa Claus that dressed up. I want to give thanks to him too. I don't know his name, Jim. I forgot. What's that?
Vern Hartman.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, so he did great. You know, he played the part, took pictures with the kids, and it was well attended. So it was great to see. Happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Probably should let Ryan go first, but good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a quick update for this potential outage that's coming up. So on the public works side, we've gotten all of our backup generators. Everything's topped off, equipment and everything. We've had a meeting about, scenarios, what we need to do. We do have standby that's going to be, if it does happen, they will be out making sure everything gets transferred back to regular power. So I think on our side, I think we're very well prepared. So people will have water, people will be able to flush their toilets, take showers.
Good.
So hopefully that eases the pain a little bit for some of them.
Does the sewer run off the same big pumps? I mean, I'm thinking about that. How does the sewer flow?
So we have lift stations where the sewer collects in the different lift stations, and then all that gets pumped out.
The sewer stations are got backup.
Correct. Yep, each one of those have their own backup, and as well as the drinking water wells. Yep.
It does look like it's gonna rain until maybe next Wednesday potentially, depending on the weather conditions moving forward. How has street cleaning been? Has that been a priority? What does that look like? So I know once we get a couple of days of rain, that creates a lot of flooding in the community, as we've seen in the prior year when that happened.
So sweeper ran all day today. We had a crew out as well, picking up piles of leaves that maybe shouldn't have been out on the streets, but to mitigate possible problems, we're just getting them picked up and minimize any flooding. All right. Thanks.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. PG&E shutdown is still happening. Same time, 1 to 5. Even with weather, unless it's a really bad storm, they're going to continue with the work with its criticalness of it. It'd have to be something really bad, and it's de-energized, so there's not a lot of hazard. Just be wet. During that time, we're going to take advantage of doing some testing on equipment that you can only do testing on when the power's off, and power's hasn't been off in a really long time. So our engineer is going to be on site, and I'll be working with him doing testing on, they're called CPTs, or their current potential transformers. And they break it down so that the meter can register what's coming into the city for the NCPA meter. And to his knowledge, he has no testing records on that equipment. So we're just going to do some testing on it and see how they're doing. And also during that time, the crew will be working on another job that would require an outage normally, but would be able to get it done during that. Or actually it's for 7-Eleven, so they're going to be out. They would have to be out anyways, so we're going to take advantage of that.
At that time, yeah.
Also, I reached out to Caltrans and let them know of the outage, because normally when the power's out, their lights just flash, which during that time period of the day would probably cause a traffic problem. They were happy to hear from me, and they are going to set up to have their traffic signals working normally. So I'm assuming that means they're going to put them on backup generation to keep traffic moving.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
They couldn't get us backup generation.
Caltrans? Yeah, well, they just need a little baby generator for those things.
Guys that you're gonna have doing this work can't get done, doing the power off. They're only gonna work till 5, right?
This is just our engineer that's been working with the city for 30 years. Dominic Veloci, it's just gonna be me and him, and he's gonna come in at noon probably and be with us through the shutdown. And then I'm gonna work with him doing the testing on the equipment. And then which it shouldn't take the duration of the outage. We should be done before then.
Didn't want us to, if they're done in 4.5 hours.
Oh, no.
I want us to be.
We won't hold up it, yeah, and then he'll be there when we go back on, just to make sure that the substation, everything, if there's an issue, and he can help us with that. Right. And that's my update, if you have any questions.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, for me, a lot of the questions that I've asked it's because we need and hopefully should be proactive instead of reactive. Have we thought about contingency plans if for whatever reason PG&E goes beyond the 4-hour mark? I think, unless correct me if I'm wrong, for example, I heard that the elementary school might have their holiday concert, but later that evening, hoping that the power does come back on at 5. Have you heard anything about that? But also, is there any thoughts or pressure on PG&E, like you better have the lights back on at 5?
I mean, we've been pretty adamant that the 4 hours was the amount of time that we were able to do with the short notice of them backing out of the backup generation. If this was something that they brought to our attention 6 months ago that they weren't going to offer it, then, that would have been on us. But we've been pretty adamant that 4 hours, we're willing to do the 4 hours at this time. And come the next outage, which they're planning sometime maybe in the spring, I'm working on a backup plan either to work with PG&E to get a backup feed like Biggs has for the distribution system, and backup generation. The backup generation cost was also a lot higher because of the short notice. So I'm going to be working with those people, and then I have got some other contacts I can reach out to find the best pricing possible. And then we'll work on a plan, and I'll bring you the pricing if that's something we want to move towards. But ultimately, I'm going to try to work with PG&E since they are around the entire city, that maybe we can tie into one of their different circuits with ours. And, that would be a lot easier, I think, feasible if they make it easy. But I'm trying to work on different plans for this next outage that's possibly in the spring.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor, councilors. I think not a whole lot of updates for planning, but I think you guys want to know where the housing element is, hands of state. And so they have 60 days to ask for expedited review, but we'll see how that goes. They respond with anything, so we'll see. Plan on starting the safety element, hopefully sooner than later, kind of trying to balance between, do we want to front load the safety element so that it's more robust now, or do we wait until we do the next housing element and try to make it more robust at that time, because we'll have more time to plan for it. So the safety element and the housing element need to be done hand in hand at the same time. So once we kind of nail that down, I think that we'll have a clear path on how to move forward. All the projects are moving forward, some faster than others, but otherwise we're just continuing to support them and trying to keep them alive. If you have any questions about any of them, by all means.
Any questions? No. Thank you. No more reports. We will now go to closed session.